Hi everyone, this is Abrar. Welcome to Abrar Knowledge channel. Today's topic is book review, Six Sigma for Dummies, Part 3. Why it is Part 3? Part 1 and 2 we have already covered in the past. And please take a look. You will get interesting information about what is variation, what is hidden factory, what is the difference between 3.8 Sigma versus 6 Sigma, and so on. So the author name is Six Sigma for Dummies is the book name, and the author name is by Craig Gagey, Neil DiCarlo, and Bruce Williams. So this is the same forward by Stephen R. Covey, one of my favorite author, who also been author for Seven Habit of Effective People and the Eighth Habit, and so on. And this book is what is the most interesting thing about this book is this book talks about the strategical things. We know we get to have all these tools, techniques, and so on. This book is unlike the other one. So this book only focuses on strategical things, how we need to plan and implement Six Sigma. So, just to give you an overview, what we saw in part one and what we saw in part one and part two, and then we will talk about part three. Part one, we talk about the historical perspective, how that Six Sigma evolved, and then followed by Malcolm Baldrige, how they won the quality awards, and then we specifically talk about the variation. Variation is inevitable, it is very difficult to control it, and it is not possible to eliminate, but we can do a control. And there is wonderful example of a medical industry. If a medical industry follows 3.8 sigma, that produces the 99 percentage of accuracy, how much incorrect prescription can happen, how much death can happen due to incorrect prescription, and so on. Wonderful definitions and wonderful information being added about 98.99 98 versus 99.99964, that is 3.8 sigma versus 6 sigma. And then part two, we talked about more about the variation, what is mean by variation, and then specifically what are the different type of variation, and so on, and then how we can leverage the data, and all begins with something called y equal to mx plus c. What is y is output, input, and how we can have that, which can be controlled, and so on. And then we touch upon Pareto slightly on that part two. So part 3 is only one detail, 10 pitfall or mistakes to avoid in Six Sigma. Wonderfully written, and please stay tuned till the end. You will get the entire concepts and the techniques that which you should know and which you should avoid while implementing Six Sigma. Number one. This is the chapter number 14, and the chapter name is 10 Pitfalls to Avoid. So, in this chapter, the author proves that dispelling common Six Sigma myth, knowing what to watch for, avoiding common mistakes. So, in this chapter, 10 common mistake which we should avoid in Six Sigma any projects. So number one, the mistake number one, the pitfall number one, not allowing enough time. So what I have done, I have already written the actual script here, and then my versions I have added here. The same summary I have added on the right side. So it says that any new level of performance in any organization is like an engine, right? So that engine is something we call them as project. So if the organization has to be enhanced in the profitability, scalability, and all these things, the paramount thing is they need to find out a project and be most updated and all that. To do that, what we have to do is we have to pick up a resources, pick up the green belt or black belt. Full time effort we should do that. Why we should do that? If we are not doing it, what will happen? Doesn't generate the enough force, so will not be able to complete the project on time, and thereby project completion can tend to drags out. So this is the risk of it. And more importantly, what when we are tighten up the with very extreme target and very tightened target, are not allowing the enough target. When we have that, what will happen? The momentum, interest, everything will have waned. So that's something we need to watchful about it. Number one thing what we need to do, we need to talk about the time has to be sufficiently given. Number two, who is the leader? That is very, very important question. Whether we talked about the individual effort, individual contributor, or independently the person does some data collection, or does some review, or does some any analysis, whether we're talking about that, or individual crew member. So everyone been assigned to a different task, or everybody has to align to a captain. So here it gives an example that Six Sigma deployment without a leader is like a ship without a captain. So captain is important. In this one, the captain is the person who leads, runs the Six Sigma project. To do that, what the best benefit when you have a good leader, we will be able to make the breakthrough changes as such. Pitfall number three. So in this one, taking too big a bite, what does it mean is the main reason. I have just made a quick summary here. It means that main reason of failure include scope is too broad. So we just wanted to have everything suddenly implement this Six Sigma and all that. So the scope part we have to be extremely careful. We need to see the viability, feasible, in which part is feasible and all that. As a horizontal deployment we can do once the project is successful, and then as a horizontal mechanism we can implement the same best practices across the board, trying to minimize the variation in everything. Both are same. One is having the big scope for the entire organization, we wanted to implement, not finding out the critical aspect and all that, or trying to minimize the variation in everything and defocus that little bit of improvement. Some what will happen sometime, the main priority one we might get missed. An error in the, this is the code is being given, always error on the side of scoping your project too small. So both the things we have to avoid. So either it should not too small, too big, and we have to strike the balance. We need to see from the critical and business impact angle, and then have it do that. Pitfall number four, focusing on isolated areas. So this is the extension to a previous point where we talked about scoping is making a big scope and all that. So this part, what it says that once you implement in a small area, and then what you do is you do an horizontal deployment. The best practices you can share across the board so that everyone in the organization can follow the same process. Pitfall number five, but we are different. So in this case actually it gives a very important aspect that Six Sigma is unique, and also at the same time it applies to many things. It applies to manufacturing, operation, logistic, design, supply chain, services, transaction, processing, legal, human resources, software, sales, marketing, management, healthcare, the public sector, the defense, contracting. The list goes on and on and on and on. What the author tries to tell is, do not fall into the trap of thinking that you are lone exception to the rule. So that means everyone is unique. We need to get it, the data applies all for all segment. Do not think that we are lone exception for the rule. And pitfall number six, overtraining is also a mistake which we need to avoid. What are the things? Not every officer of the pace needs to be trained and as an elite special forces commando. Likewise, not everyone doing Six Sigma need to know the details of every advanced statistical tool and statistical method. And it also gives that warning that do not get fooled into the thinking that more and more knowledge is better, is always better, and do not think that you have to use every tool on every project. Expediency in learning and in application is the key. The best system gets the right knowledge to the right person at the right time. So that how we have a knowledge, how we can experience. That's the reason I have touched upon this layer. There is something called 10-10-80 principle. What we learn, how we recall, and how we implement. Blindly believing your measurement system. So it says that all about data and all about MSA, measurement system analysis. These two are really, really key. Always take time to perform the measurement analysis at the beginning of your project. Taking this step saves you from many potential problems or headaches. Pitfall number 8 reminds me again, it is CLs, not RSLs. So where both are different. Control limits is different and specification limits are different. Control limits are the critical part of every control chart. They capture, very importantly, they capture, represent the true voice of the process. Control chart, that's what, whether we talked about IMR chart, X bar chart, C chart, U chart, NP chart, P chart, all of these, what it depicts is it depicts the control limits. So we need to be careful that the CL is something, control limit, the control chart is something gives the true voice of the process. The problem is that they often confuse with the specification limit. A specification limit is given by the customer, which represent only the voice of customer. It is critically important to know when to use which limit in which situation. Control limits for the voice of the process. Specification limit for the voice of the customer. So it has given in chapter number 10 more and more detail. So we need to follow we need to very mindful about voice of the process, that is control limits. Sometime what will happen actually, like we might meet that, that's what CPK comes into handy. Sometime your CP is very beautiful, CP is 2, that means it's 6 sigma, but CPK, when it comes to CPK, it is 1, not capable, variation is more, and only 3 sigma. So that's the reason we also need to take care the part of CPK, that is control limit, also we need to take care. And exaggerated opportunity counts, sometimes this is also critically important. Falsely inflated assessment of the number of opportunities. Sometimes we wanted to show only good picture, and that things to be avoided. We have to find a ways, and how even if we have not improved in some areas, that's fine, but still we need to find and pick up that offset, and keep moving ahead. The last chapter is not leveraging technology. Technology and software are inseparable from Six Sigma, yet many try to segment technology into its own isolated corner. Otherwise dismiss its contribution outright because they don't understand how to leverage its potential. The right technology can help any person in Six Sigma do her work better and faster. That's goal everyone desires. So right tool and technology are the key elements. So that's the 10 step which we talked about, and I hope you like this one. And this is the nice book, please take a read on that, and wonderfully covered all the technical and strategic, not strategical aspect. And I strongly recommend to have a read Six Sigma for Dummies. You have a nice day. Please do like, share, subscribe my channel. Have a nice day ahead.